Today is November 20th, 2021, and I decided to make a quick tutorial on how to cut a frame. And you could cut a frame as simple as using a little miter box like this. That's hand saw, and it has angles cut at the 45 degrees, and it cuts a pretty good miter. But of course it takes a while, it's a lot more effort. Or you could use a miter saw like the construction people use, and this is one that you can set at all sorts of multiple angles, and it just kind of chops the miter with the saw blade. But here in our little basement shop I have a Morso foot pedal guillotine style chopper that just cuts the most beautiful miters. There's no sawdust or anything, but it is razor sharp blades, and you have to keep your fingers away or you could chop your fingers off real easy. And so you've got to be very careful, not be thinking about anything else but the task at hand. And this has a bottom lever here that moves the blades forward or backward. And of course I'm trying to film this by myself, so I will try again to see if this is any better. But you can see you can move it way in or way out, and just about everything, even the narrower frames, you have to make a number of cuts. You can't just cut through a frame with one chop. You make a couple preliminary cuts, and then at the final cut you slice off just a little bit. And it's foot operated. You step on this pedal and it brings the blades down. And it has a 60-inch measuring gauge bed, and you just measure what you're framing. And like if it's 24 1/4, you would set the stop at 24 3/8, because you always want a little bit more frame, because if you make it too tight, it'll the mats will warp if the frame is real tight to the mat. And then these are the things that go underneath the rabbet of the frame. And you turn the little nut with that makes this go up and down. And so you have to put a frame in and then adjust it to where the height of the frame is, because if it's too low you'll get the bottom of the rabbet, the lip of the frame, splintering out, and if it's too high it won't sit flat in the saw bed. You can kind of see that with a couple frames I have here that are a couple different heights. So you need to set the height of that so that it's just right flush with the underside of the lip, depending on how high the frame is. And then you just step on the pedal and it'll make a little smaller notch, and then a little bit bigger notch, and then the final cut, which is just smooth as can be. And I'll see if I can do that. There you can see first couple cuts, and now it's just about ready to be cut the rest of the way. And when you do it like this, you get an amazingly smooth cut. And the final position of that bigger snob down there, the horizontal lever there, is as far in as it can go to the right. And there you have a beautiful, perfect miter. And it's really a lot of fun. It sure turns something that can be kind of a laborious thing, like using this, into something that's really kind of fun. I also wanted to mention that as I'm cutting the frames, I take each frame rail and lay it up to the picture that goes in it and make sure that it fits perfectly. And here's one in progress that I have the frame half together, and then I can double check that the frame is going to be perfect before I put it together, find out it's cut wrong, and then have to start all over. Now I've got to admit, here in the frame shop, since 1979, we've used a Pistorius double miter saw that has two 12-inch carbide blades that come down at the same time at the angle. And they cut a perfect miter. And it'll cut wood and metal and everything. But I don't care to let people just learning how to use this, because the last time I did, it wasn't good. They had trouble with it, and it was something that I'll think long and hard about having somebody else use. But with this machine, a monkey could cut 500 frames in a day without hardly thinking, and it's been a real time saver. But just like the Morso chopper, it's got a stop down there, and so if anybody wants me to cut the frame rather than then cut the frame, I can do that. But our shop time's $1 a minute, so it's usually around a $10 thing to have me cut a frame here in our little shop. So as kind of a recap, remember always to have the piece that you're framing in front of you and not just the measurements, so that you can cut a frame rail, put it right next to it, make sure it's perfect, and then cut the next one, and do that for both the long and short members. And of course, these blades are super sharp. Always keep your fingers away from them, and don't step on the pedal until you're sure your fingers are not anywhere near the blades.